Dodgers have won it all. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. He struck him out. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Daniel Starkand. Tough loss for the Dodgers, 2-1, going up against arguably the best pitcher in the world, Jacob deGrom. He was on top of his game. Tyler Anderson was actually very good for the Dodgers as well. The offense just scores 1 run. Daniel, a tough one for the Dodgers, a quick one. I mean, I wasn't even ready for the post game. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. We're used to these like 4-hour extra inning games on nights we go live, but it's a game the Dodgers were underdogs in, which was a surprise to me, the scope of how big of an underdog they were. I expected them to be the underdog, but it kind of played out exactly like Vegas expected. 2-1, low-scoring game. DeGrom's the difference.
Yeah, like you said, first thing is we rarely ever get that quick of a game on a live show night. But yeah, I mean, it was a pitcher's duel, which coming into it, which you expected with, obviously DeGrom and Tyler Anderson, who's been having a great year. And hey, yeah, Anderson pretty much matched him pitch for pitch. The Mets just happened to hit a 2-run home run. The Dodgers hit a solo home run, and then JT gets robbed of a potential game-tying home run. But yeah, I mean, if you're the Mets, that's pretty much how you draw it up, right? Like if you're looking ahead to the postseason, how do you beat this juggernaut Dodgers team? Well, you get a pitching performance like you did tonight from DeGrom. You get the ball to Edwin Diaz with the lead in the 9th, and then he takes care of it. So, it was a good game all around, but the Dodgers came up just short. But I don't think there's no reason to panic or anything. I thought the Dodgers were right there the whole night. And oddly enough, I actually feel kind of encouraged coming out of it. Like, the Mets had their guy on the mound, and the Dodgers were right there. JT almost hit a potential game-tying home run, and then who knows if that gets out, they might still be playing. But either way, you're feeling pretty good if you're the Dodgers. But came up just short, which, I mean, against DeGrom, that's if you're going to drop any game in this series, that's the one we were expecting to drop. Yeah,
I mean, DeGrom comes into this game, and the numbers were ridiculous. 29 in the third inning pitch coming in. He had 46 strikeouts, a whip of 0.55. 2.15 ERA coming in. So let us know, by the way, in the comments. I know you said Daniel's mic was low. I tried turning it up on my end. So let me know if that's working. Apparently, the first time I tried, it didn't do anything. Let me know if it's any better now. We were having audio difficulties while we were a few minutes late. But, yeah, I mean, DeGrom was absolutely fantastic tonight. He finishes the game 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts, 93 pitches, 62 strikes. Just a really dominant performance from DeGrom. Okay, people are saying my mic is loud now. We'll get things sorted out.
Mine's low, yours is high.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I mean, on the side of DeGrom, this is a team that the Dodgers could potentially face. Is there any concern for you about this moving forward?
First of all, whatever you just did worked. Your mic's a little lower now. But I mean, there's always concern when it's Jacob deGrom. Like we saw the stuff tonight. Like he's 101, he was getting up to 102, and he could put it pretty much wherever he wants. That's why he's widely considered the best in the game. So I thought, the Dodgers took some pretty good at-bats. Ideally, you'd like to get his pitch count up a little higher so you get him out after 6 innings as opposed to 7. But at the same time, when he's pounding the zone the way he was, you don't really have that luxury of getting his pitch count up. You kind of have to attack early in counts when he's rolling like he was. I think at one point he was like 11 of the first 12 batters he faced. He had first pitch strikes. So, when he has a night like that, you kind of just have to tip your cap and hope that your guy on the mound will match him. And for the most part, Tyler Anderson did that. But yeah, I mean, Jacob deGrom is the best in the league for a reason. His stuff is absolutely nasty, and you just got to hope that you could keep the score low enough that you can hopefully get him out of there and get to the Mets bullpen before another guy in Edwin Diaz, who's just as nasty, comes in the game in the 9th.
Yeah, deGrom had a no-hitter through 4 1/3. Justin Turner was the guy who broke that one up. Mookie Betts eventually gets them on the board with a home run. And then it's Justin Turner again with a drive to center field. 104 miles an hour off the bat, 410 feet, 790 expected batting average. This was on a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, 99.6. Nemo makes, look, one of the most unbelievable catches. Nemo makes one of the best catches that you'll see. I mean, just a dead sprint, absolutely perfectly timed. Most of the time, you see guys get to the wall and then sort of time their jump. He jumps from before the warning track, flies about 5 or 6 feet through the air, and catches that ball right above the wall. Unbelievable catch that keeps this game from being tied. And, on one hand, the catch is what it is, but I'll say this. Justin Turner turning on a 99.6-mile-an-hour fastball and putting it 104 miles an hour, 410 feet to dead center, that was almost enough encouragement for me on its own.
Absolutely. And JT made a nice defensive play at third, too. So yeah, I mean, I think, there were some good at-bats in there, but I think I wanted more guys to be aggressive, kind of like I was just saying, when deGrom is rolling like that, you're not going to work his pitch count up. You're not going to take too many walks. So, you got to go up there ready to, be firing. And that's what JT did there. Great catch by Nimmo. It's one of those where you just kind of have to tip your cap. And you hope that's not the difference in the game tonight. It was, but I think there was plenty of things to come away, encouraged, even though, it was a frustrating loss.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of those encouragements, and I think it's Tyler Anderson. 7 innings pitched, 8 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 93 pitches. I mean, against one of the better teams in baseball, one of the top 5 to 10 offenses in baseball, Anderson was able to keep the Dodgers in it. Basically had just allowed 1 hit through the first 2 2/3. Then he allows single home run, single before getting out of that third inning. And outside of that 4-batter stretch where he allows 4 consecutive guys to reach, he was pretty much in cruise control.
Yeah. I mean, hey, for him, I honestly didn't think Anderson had his best stuff at all tonight. I thought he worked through some trouble, but for him to get through 7 innings, you can't ask for much more than that, especially given, the current state of the bullpen. The Dodgers only had 4 relievers available last night, somehow get through it and get the win. And then tonight for Anderson to go 7, Jake Reed pitches the 8th. So even though it's a loss, you basically got, an off day for your entire bullpen, which is great. But yeah, I mean, credit to Tyler Anderson. He's been doing it all year. Obviously, no one could have expected him to have the season he's having, but he's been there. He's leading the Dodgers in innings. He's been starting every 5th day, and he's been giving them quality innings. So even on a night like tonight, where it didn't look like he had his best stuff, he makes, I guess the one bad pitch you could say to Marte, and he hits a 2-run home run. But outside of that, I thought it was a really good outing for him to go toe-to-toe with, the best pitcher in baseball right now. So some might say you'll take that any day.
Yeah, I mean, Deuce says this. Anderson's actually the guy that pundits don't think make our postseason rotation. I don't think anybody's saying he won't make the roster, but maybe he's the odd man out in a 4-man rotation. And you can't overanalyze one start, and you can't go back and forth, but Anderson has now pitched against the Mets, who are the second-best team in baseball, the second-best team in the National League twice. I believe in 13 innings, he's allowed 2 earned runs. He's held them in check for the most part. Do you look at stuff like this and say, do I have to rethink it, or is it just no disrespect to Tyler Anderson, you're just the 5th best guy on a 4-man rotation?
I mean, for me, Tyler Anderson would probably be a part of my rotation. So,
okay.
I mean, we got to wait and see who's healthy. I think if you look at the Dodgers rotation right now, there's a lot of moving parts. You got Kershaw coming back tomorrow. You got Tony Gonsolin just went out. Heaney's been back for almost a month now, but he doesn't go super deep in the game. So there's a lot of moving parts. Dustin May's only made a couple starts. So we got to see where we're at. But the way Tyler Anderson's been pitching, I don't see how he's not a part of your postseason rotation, even if he's the 4th guy or the 5th guy. If you look ahead to the NLCS and the World Series, you're going to need 5 guys. So I think for me, he'd be a part of it. But also, we saw early in the season when he began the season in the bullpen, he was pretty lights out in that role too. So I think he's a guy that you could really throw into any role, and he's gonna find success. If he's not a part of your rotation and he winds up being your kind of long reliever who could come in and be a multi-inning weapon, that's really valuable too. But I think, kind of like you were saying earlier, I think he's definitely on the roster. It's just a matter of kind of what his role is.
Yeah, and Mike puts this up: Urias, Gonsolin, May, and Kershaw if he performs, or Anderson. I mean, that's the hard part. Is we can. Look, I am as pro Tyler Anderson as anybody. I have defended this guy and bought in early on. but he's not taking Urias' spot. He's not taking Gonsolin's spot. He's not taking Kershaw's spot. So Dustin May becomes the wild card there, and there's a lot of people that think Dustin May's the best guy on this entire list. And so I think that's the hard part when you get into a conversation of, as you pointed out, the NLCS very well could have a five-man rotation, which would be against the team like the Mets most likely. But it's just an interesting dynamic. And again, I don't want to get too far deep into that because that's a conversation for another day. But let's get back to this one. DeGrom's unbelievable. The Dodgers offense manages just 3 hits on the night. How much, is there a part of you that's frustrated with the Dodgers offense? Not big picture, obviously. I'm just saying at a game like today, you mentioned the approach, or is this just, hey, it's DeGrom, you just wipe it and move on to the next day?
I think if this was a playoff game, you'd be a little frustrated because it didn't really seem like they had a plan to go out there and attack. It seemed like they were a little too passive. But I also think a lot of this start is kind of getting ready for October, right? Like, this game isn't the end all be all. You're getting a look at DeGrom that you could potentially be gathering intel for down the line. So, I would have liked if they were more aggressive because, DeGrom's not going to walk people. If you get behind 0-2 with him, you're pretty much screwed because he's got so many different pitches he could go to. But I also think this is a regular season game, and I don't even if you're just looking at the lineup, I'm not sure if that's the lineup the Dodgers would be trotting out there against the DeGrom. Like, if you look towards the bottom of it, there is a lot of swing and miss, and when you got guys who are prone to swing and miss going against probably the best swing and miss pitcher in the game, the results were pretty much as expected. So it's obviously frustrating when you're going up there and only scoring run, but I still think at the same time, I think there's a lot that can be learned from a game like this, and that's ultimately what's most important, going into into October. And also, as I see some people in the comments too, that there was a big strike zone, and when a guy like DeGrom is painting like that, there's really not much anyone could do. Like, as much as you want to go up there and hit a guy like that, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And did you have a sense on that one? Like, the zone was wide, the zone was tall. Did you feel like it went one way or the other, or was just sort of? I felt like both pitchers sort of benefited from it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
But to your point, when you're facing DeGrom, the last thing you want is for him to get 3 inches outside when he's throwing 99. And to be fair to the umpire, when a guy's throwing 100 miles an hour, you've got even less time to try and decide if that was 2 inches outside or right on the paint. And so it's a tough job to be an umpire. I think to your point, when you're facing DeGrom, you hope that things tighten up a little bit. They don't widen, but that's what the Dodgers got tonight, and they had to deal with it. They didn't. Tyler Anderson was getting the benefit of some of those same calls. There were lots of Mets as the game went on that were frustrated with inside strikes, outside strikes, and so it is kind of what it is. Looking at the Dodgers offense tonight, Mookie Betts 1 for 4. Obviously, he had the home run. Freddie Freeman with the hit and a stolen base. Justin Turner with the single and then an almost home run. Those are the only 3 hits. Trea Turner did walk once. Those are the only 4 base runners for the Dodgers. You mentioned the bottom of the lineup. Joey Gallo and Cody Bellinger were in left field and center field. This is something that I got into a discussion with somebody about on Twitter today. I said, heading into this, they had rested Mookie early in Monday. They rested Will Smith yesterday. I said, I think the Dodgers' A lineup comes tonight because you want to get these guys reps against Jacob deGrom, a guy that they might face later on in the postseason. Gallo and Bellinger. Is that the Dodgers' A lineup? Not, is that the group that you think is most likely to be starting in a playoff game, in a must-win game down the stretch?
I mean, we'll see a month from now, but I think, let's say, if the playoffs were starting today, I'd say Trayce Thompson has to be in there, and I know you were tweeting the same thing. I mean, if you look at the production you've been getting from Trayce Thompson, mostly against right-handed pitching, I don't see how, let's say if this was a playoff game today, he would be in the lineup. Joey Gallo came over and was great, but I think he's now 1 for his last 18. Obviously, we're seeing there's a lot of swing and miss there, and it's tough with him and Cody both back-to-back. That's tough. So I think you got to kind of choose one of those guys. Those guys are kind of battling for a spot. And then Trayce Thompson is getting that other spot. And I know Chris Taylor is obviously not getting the job done right now. So he's kind of, on the bench right now. But who knows? He could get hot at any time too. And then his name is right back in the picture. So we'll see in a month. But I think if right now, if you're playing a must-win do-or-die game, I want Trayce Thompson in the lineup.
So why do you think it is that he's not playing that often? We keep seeing scenarios where he's just not getting the reps that all of the rest of these guys are. You said it, Joey Gallo, 1 for his last 19. Cody Bellinger, we have way more of a sample size than that. From your perspective, sorry, I'll try and get the glare out of the way here. From your perspective, why is Trea Thompson? Is he being... Are these guys being given opportunities and Trace is sort of being treated as a guy who's already got his spot cemented? Or is this how Dave Roberts just happens to see it? Because I have to admit, and we can get to this in a minute, Joey Gallo, when he came over, I kept hearing about Gold Glove defense. He's been awful defensively for the most part. So Dave Roberts, we know, I feel like the Dave Roberts' MO is to gravitate towards the Joey Gallo types, to give them a longer leash, to give them the benefit of the doubt. Trea Thompson continues to produce. The small sample size is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and yet it feels like he's playing once every 3 days.
Look, a lot of it comes down to, if you look at the standings, these are not do or die games for the Dodgers at all. I'd love to see Trace in the lineup more. I feel like whenever he's in there, he produces. But I also think if you look at guys like Gallo and Cody, there's upside there. And if you could find a way to untap that, that makes your ball club a lot better. So they're giving them opportunities to make that happen. Obviously against Jacob deGrom, that's not a good matchup for anyone, even if you're a lefty against the righty. So if you're trying to get a guy going, I don't know if that's the best pitcher to do it against. But I just think they're going to give guys opportunities to try to get going. Trace is still getting plenty of at-bats. He's not playing every day like a lot of people want, but he's still in there every other day or so.
Yeah.
And I just think they're going to give those guys opportunities to get right, because we have basically this next month is an experiment to see not only who's going to be in the starting lineup in the postseason, but who's going to make the roster. Like, is Joey Gallo good enough to even make the roster? Like, you see, rosters are about to expand. Miguel Vargas is about to be called up. Is he? Can he play a better role than Joey Gallo as a guy who can hit left-handed pitching? If you got a guy like Trace, who, even though he's a right-handed bat, he hits right-handed pitching really well. So it's all kind of an audition for the next month, and I know it could get frustrating at times for us fans sitting here. A big series against the Mets. You want to win, you want to make that statement, and maybe your best lineup isn't out there, but I think they have a plan. When they acquired Joey Gallo in the first place, they had a plan. I know it kind of worked out right away from the beginning, but I didn't think they were expecting that to be the case. I thought, they knew it would be a process. They knew they had 2 or 3 months to see if this could work before the postseason, and I just think they're sticking with that, even if it's not necessarily their best lineup every day.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say is, yes, give all these guys a leash, right? We've used Max Muncy as an example, and I said if there's a 20% chance that he figures it out, then you trot him out there every day, they're winning, it doesn't matter. And it worked. The problem is, Trea Thompson, he hasn't done this consistently at a high level over a large sample size at any point in his career. And so you've got a guy who's in a groove, who's hitting well, who's got an OPS of like 900 as a Dodger, and he's playing every other day. So, I don't feel like he's good enough to say, just throw him on the bench, and if these guys don't figure it out, we'll just wake him up in October and he'll just strap in there. I feel like Trea Thompson needs to be getting everyday at-bats, everyday reps to be getting it. The second piece is, Cody Bellinger is the guy who should be sitting. We know what we have offensively with Cody Bellinger. The sample size is multiple seasons long. The defense is a guarantee. The defense is, put that on the shelf and we'll wake that up when we get to October. But I feel like offensively, we know what we're getting with Cody Bellinger. He has been in the Dodgers system for an extended period of time. He has not shown much hope or optimism offensively for more than a week or two at a time over the last, 2.5 years? So to me, Trea Thompson isn't a guy that you can just say, hey, Trace, we're going to let you play every day, but when we need you, then all of a sudden it's going to become an everyday role, because I just don't feel like he has enough experience and enough of a track record to rely on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with some of that. I think with Belly, kind of like you said, what you have in him at this point. I think with Gallo, you're trying to see if he can reach his potential. I think, like you said, with Belly, this has been going on for 2 years now, so you pretty much know what you have. But I also think at the same time, that's still a pretty valuable player. He gives you value in left center field. Like you just mentioned with Gallo, the defense has not been as good as we thought it would be so far. So at least with Belly, you're getting that in center field, and and he's had some timely hits. I'll say, I know there hasn't been a lot of them, but he's gotten some big hits. So I think that's part of it with Belly. Like if he's going to be the one guy in the 9-hole where you're not really expecting a whole lot, with the bat, I think that's okay if you look at the rest of the lineup. So I see that, but I also think you're right. I definitely think with Belly at this point, you're not just throwing him in the lineup hoping he's going to figure out like a tweak in his swing that he's back to like all-star form. I think we're way past that at this point.
Yeah, and Gallo's new to the organization. He's got some new tips and new tweaks and stuff. That's fine. Like, let him test those things out. If he continues to hit like this, to me, it feels like at this point, it's Gallo and Thompson and Chris Taylor that are competing for the left field spot, because I think Bellinger, like Gallo to me was originally a week and a half ago, I would have told you Gallo, but it's because I was reading the press clippings about Gallo's defense. A ball gets hit over that guy's head. He doesn't know whether to turn to his left, whether to turn to his right. It's like, and today he just stopped turning. He was just like, I'm just going to turn around and let the ball just bounce off the wall whenever it bounces off the wall. It's been ugly. If it's in front of him, if it's to the right, if it's to the left, he seems okay. That ball's over his head. He seems completely lost out there. And so for me, keep Cody in center, like you said. Let him play unbelievable defense, especially in the postseason when those moments are going to matter more. Let him trust that like he's going to have one or two big hits like he has for the past couple of postseasons, even when he's been terrible in the regular season. And then let Trea Thompson be the guy who's going to continue to not anchor your lineup, but just provide you bottom of the order production until he doesn't. And look, if Trea Thompson goes in a massive slump and regresses back to the mean, there's a chance that's still better than Chris Taylor and Joe Gallo, for the record. But if he regresses over the next month, 30 games, whatever we've got left, then sure. But for me right now, I just think Trea Thompson has earned that spot. And to me, that means give the guy a chance to play every single day. And I hope. I mean, I'm looking back on his game log. He didn't play today. He did start yesterday. Didn't start on the 29th. Did start on the 28th. Didn't start on the 27th. Did start on the 26th. Off day on the 25th. Didn't start on the 24th. So it's like it's every day at best. Every other day at best is what Trea Thompson is getting. And he is a pinch hitter, and I get that, but we'll see. People in the chat asking about James Outman. 2 cycles in 4 days. He's on it like something like absolute heater as far as extra base hits over the last 7 days. He came up, he performed, and yet on the flip side, every time I talk to Justin Lorber about prospects, that's not his calling card. Like if the bat develops the way that it has been for the last 3 weeks, it will have come out of left field, no pun intended. This isn't what he's known for. He does not have a track record of this. So, I mean, if Bellinger's going to hit the way he's going to hit, like, do you give Outman a chance, or is 2022 too soon?
I mean, look, we got a whole month left here, so we'll see what happens with injuries. We'll see if he continues like this crazy pace he's on with AAA right now. I definitely think there's some hurdles in front of him. Obviously, he's a left-handed bat. The Dodgers have plenty of left-handed outfielders that we just spent a lot of time talking about. So I still think those guys are ahead of him. But if there's an injury, if let's say Vargas comes up for a couple weeks and doesn't do a whole lot, then they want to give an opportunity to Outman for the last couple weeks. I wouldn't completely write him off for the rest of the season. And I know what the scouting report on him is. Like, he's a glove first outfielder, but sometimes when a guy's hot, like he's hot, and you want to get the most out of him when he's hot, because obviously he's not going to keep up this crazy pace he's been on forever. But we already saw him come up once and be able to contribute right away. I know that was a very small sample size. Like, he only played like 3 or 4 games or whatever it was. But, we'll see. I think a lot can happen in a month's time. Yeah. Even though the Dodgers have, pretty much everything clinched, guys are still going to play. So there's always the risk of injury, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him up here sometime in the next couple weeks, just to see, hey, if this guy's on fire, let's call him up and see if he can continue it. And who knows, maybe we could catch lightning in a bottle where that hot streak keeps going for a month and you're into October and you never know what could happen.
Yeah, I mean, the problem for Outman is we just talked about a guy in Trea Thompson who's got an OPS at the major league level of 900, and he can't get playing time. So they're not going to call a guy up at AAA to take Trea Thompson's at-bats away from him, and Trea Thompson is clearly not taking Gallo or Bellinger or Taylor's at-bats away right now. And so, you say an injury, it would need to be like 3 injuries, I think, before James Outman. Because if you're the Dodgers, which would you rather prepare for? Would you rather take every chance that you can somehow miraculously find Joey Gallo or Cody Bellinger's 2017 swing? Or do you bring a guy up who's been hot for 2 weeks but does not have a track record of being an offensive force, who's known more as a glove-first guy? You've already got a better glove-first guy in Cody Bellinger. And so, yes, the Outman upside right now might be marginally higher than Cody Bellinger, but the ceiling on Bellinger, if he ever figures it out, we've seen the big hits. I just don't see it. And I'm an Outman guy. Like, neither of us is anti-Outman. It just, the way that the roster is set up right now doesn't lend to it. And if you're the Dodgers, you want Outman getting regular at-bats. And so there's no point in bringing him up just to sit on the bench. Miguel Vargas is going to take that last spot for now, and we'll see what happens. Miguel Vargas, to me, makes the most sense. Were you surprised that he was the offensive guy who's getting the call-up tomorrow when rosters expand?
I mean, it was between him and Rios, and if you look at the roster, Rios is a little redundant with a lot of the guys we just talked about. Another left-handed power bat with a lot of swing and miss. Doesn't really play the outfield. Like, if you look at third base right now, I feel like Muncy and JT pretty much got that held down. So I'm not super surprised. I think if you look, basically the one thing you kind of don't have from position players that you kind of say, hey, maybe this could be a role is that right-handed bat off the bench that could hit lefties. Like, let's say if Cody's in the lineup or Gallo's in the lineup and it's the 8th inning of a 1-run game and they bring in a lefty reliever to face one of those guys, you don't really have that righty pinch hitter that mashes lefties. Like, Trace is righty, but he's actually kind of really struggled against lefties. He's mainly been crushing righties. Chris Taylor can't really hit anything right now. Hunter Alberto, I don't know if he's the guy you want up there in the biggest spot of the game.
I do. I know whether or not I want him up there in the biggest spot of the game.
Okay, no disrespect, but you don't want him up there. So I think that's the one role that you kind of look at, and you want to give at least Vargas a little runway here to give him a chance to see if he could earn a job. It's probably still unlikely that he cracks the postseason roster, but why not give it a shot here?
Yeah, I mean, that's the argument that I've been making for Vargas the whole time is the Dodgers don't have anybody that can hit left-handed pitching. Even when you look at that outfield group, most people would say, well, you have to sit Trace against lefties because his OPS has been like 550, 600, somewhere in that range. And I'm like, okay, like, have you seen Chris Taylor's numbers against lefties or Gallo's or Bellinger's? They're all left-handed. And so Trace, you would think, would be the perfect platoon guy, but he's mashing righties and not hitting lefties. Now, that's the opposite. Historically in his career, he has had normal splits where he hits lefties better than righties. And so we'll see. But that's the one thing Vargas brings. And I think you nailed it. I think Hanser Alberto is his competition for a postseason roster spot. Obviously, in the regular season, Alberto's on a major league contract, so they can't just send him down to AAA or DFA him. But come the postseason, they can choose between those two guys, and there's no penalty. And I know they liked Alberto's ability to put the ball in play, not strike out. Obviously, we saw it in tons of big moments last year when the Dodgers just needed a guy to be able to put the ball in play, and they couldn't do it. That's why they liked Hanser Alberto. The flip side is Miguel Vargas is going to give you similar production in that sense with much better offensive production. Defensively, Hanser Alberto brings more, but if Chris Taylor's around, I think neither of those guys should be playing defense ever. I don't think we need Hanser Alberto as a closer at any point in the postseason either. And so I'm with you.
You never know.
If Miguel Vargas ends up pitching well over the next couple, hitting well, not pitching well. Jeez,
that's one way to beat out Alberto is to outpitch him.
Yeah, but if Vargas, like you said, if Vargas can come in, give him some chances to pinch hit, let him get used to that role because that's what his role would be. And if he can carve out, hit 250 plus with a little bit of power in that type of role against left-handed pitching, I absolutely think there's a very real chance that he ends up on the postseason roster.
Yeah, I agree. Don't have much to add.
Let me talk about one other guy here real quick, and it's not because I'm biased and because he's an Oregon grad, but I don't know if you noticed, we had an all University of Oregon pitching performance tonight from the Dodgers. Right. If you had if you had under 30 minutes before I mentioned the University of Oregon in this game, I'm sorry, I just went over on that one. But Jake Reed, this is a guy that comes in yesterday, gets his first career save against the team that cut him, released him, comes back today, another easy 1-2-3 performance, 8 pitches. I'm not saying this guy's going to be on the postseason roster, nowhere close, but I mean, good for him that he comes in against one of the better teams and has pitched well in a couple outings.
Yeah, and that's his former team that has DFA'd him twice. So for him, obviously, to get the save last night, that was incredible. I don't know if anyone saw my tweet, but I was flying home from Chicago yesterday and had no Wi-Fi on the flight. And right when we land, I flipped my phone back on, and the first thing I check is the Dodgers score, and they're up 4-3. in the bottom of the ninth, and I'm like, oh no, like here comes Kimbrel. How's this gonna go? And then I look at the box score, and Jake Reed is on the mound. So that was unexpected, but a awesome performance for him. He talked about last night about the emotions. Going against his former team, getting his first save, that was awesome. And then he comes back tonight in. It was not a low leverage situation by any means. Like that was still a 1-run game. That was a big inning where you want to, you're about to face Edwin Diaz. You want to keep that deficit at 1 run there, and he goes in there and throws a 1-2-3 inning. So good for him. I'm not sure how much longer he's going to be on this roster, but at least he has those memories, and who knows, maybe he'll have another good outing or two.
Yeah, Marte, Lindor, and Alonso in the bottom of the 8th inning of a 1-run game. I'm with you. And I mean, look good. It wasn't like he was loud contact that was just hit right at guys. Like, he got done what he needed to get done. I'm with you. I think he's going to be one of these guys that's definitely going to be sent down. That is without question. Whether or not he can even stick around on the 40-man roster, I think is another fair question when some of these 60-day IL guys get brought back. But I mean, look, the way he's pitched the last couple of days, like, are you still picking Phil Bickford, like, without blinking twice over keeping Jake Reed?
Hey, ride the hot hand. Either way, though, it's good to have these guys that can eat some innings because you're getting to the point where some of those bullpen guys, their usage has been really high all year. You kind of want to lay off them at least for a little bit so they could be fresh going into October. So if guys like him and Heath Emery and whoever else could come up and eat some innings, we'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, something we do after every game is player of the game. It's sort of a tougher one in some of these circumstances like tonight. But I think there's a couple guys that are probably, I think we can narrow it down to 3 guys. I'll put it that way for player of the game. I think it's Justin Turner, who had the 1 hit and then almost the second big hit. Obviously, Mookie Betts with the home run, Tyler Anderson performance on the mound. Who do you got for player of the game, Daniel?
I think it's got to be Tyler Anderson. Going up against deGrom and you got to keep him, you got to keep the scoreboard low. And I think he was able to do that outside of, 1 pitch to Marte. He kept him off the scoreboard all night. He kept it close to the point where it's still a game, even when you're going against the best pitcher in baseball and the best closer in baseball. The fact that it's even close there, I think it's a credit to Anderson. He gets through 7 innings. He saves your bullpen. So, like you said, not a ton of options. So I'll go Anderson.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, just the scope of what he was able to do. And I think you make a great point. Like, imagine what it feels like to know that you're facing up against Jacob deGrom, and especially when you're through 2-3 innings and the guy hasn't allowed a hit yet and he's got 5 strikeouts, and you're sitting there thinking, I have got to single-handedly go pitch for pitch with this guy because the offense isn't going to be able to pick me up. He has that moment in the 3rd inning where he gives up 4 consecutive base runners, single homer, single, gets out of that inning, and then bounces back to be really solid. And like you said, give them 4 more innings in a game where, look, if Jake Reed is pitching in the 8th, that tells you everything that you need to know about what the Dodgers thought about their bullpen. I thought they were fully rested. I talked today on the Dodgers Daily Show this morning. I was like, fully rested bullpen. We liked the under, by the way. There's a winner for you. We did go Dodgers money line, though. That was a loser. So you lost a tiny bit of money tonight. You won it all back last night, so you're fine. But I thought the Dodgers had a fully rested bullpen. I wasn't quite sure why they decided to handle things the way that they did. But they did. Jake Reed comes in against the heart of the order in a 1-run game in the 8th inning. And so for Anderson to give you 7 in those circumstances, I think is a big deal and will go a long way towards the Dodgers being able to rest. Let me ask you this. Are the Dodgers not wanting to pitch their best arms against the Mets because they know they're going to face them in the postseason?
I don't know about that. Like, I think it kind of – the rotation lies how it does. I think – I'll be curious. Let me turn this back to you because the Dodgers had a choice. They've been saying Kershaw's going to return either Thursday or Friday. So is the fact that they're pitching Kershaw Thursday and holding Dustin May off till Friday, does that mean they're not showing the Mets their best guy? Or is the fact that they're pitching Kershaw means, we'll give him one of our best guys. We don't care. Yeah,
I mean, I guess Kershaw's probably the type where a lot of these guys have already seen him, and so it's not like one more look at Kershaw is going to be a big deal. Look, the thought of the bullpen had never occurred to me, and the Dodgers hiding their bullpen from the Mets hadn't occurred for me. But if not that, I can't understand why Reed was the guy in this one. Like, people are joking about how the Mets, this was a playoff game and the Dodgers couldn't care less. Sure, but like Vesia and Phillips pitched last night, and besides them, everybody else was open. I know Chris Martin was warming, but he ends up getting sat down. So I guess it was just weird. I don't know. I think Kershaw wanted to pitch Thursday. Maybe that plays into it. But I do think, if you're going to go with the theory about the bullpen, I think the theory about the starting rotation, is that how you're interpreting things?
Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest. I think there is some benefits to not showing your best guys so that they really get their first look at them in October, as opposed to like the Dodgers saw deGrom tonight. So that's going to help, I think, the next time around when they face them. So there definitely could be some of that stuff at play. It could also just be they know how big the division lead is. If we got our starter that just went 7 innings, we're down 2-1. Realistically, we see Edwin Diaz getting warm in the bullpen. Maybe we'll just stay away from our guys, give them all extra rest, and they'll be even better, ready to go tomorrow. That could have been some of it too. I don't know, but I think there could have been some gamesmanship involved. I wouldn't put that past the Dodgers coaching staff and front office.
Yeah, I think it's fair to like you said, not to assume that it's always possible. I'll put it that way. It's always possible. I like this one from Mike. The Dodgers were hiding their bats from the Mets as hard to argue with that one.
Yeah.
The best guys were out there though. Let's go back to Kershaw, because I think this is a big storyline. Obviously expected to return tomorrow when rosters expand. There was a point when we weren't sure if he was going to be back. Then we weren't sure when he was going to be back. Then it was he was going to need to go on a rehab assignment. And then all of a sudden, he throws a couple bullpen sessions, comes right back. There was a weird quote Matt and I talked about on Sunday that I interpreted as, like, I'm ready to go, and the team just won't let me pitch. What did you make of that quote, and what are you expecting of him tomorrow?
Yeah. I was actually in agreement with you on that. I kind of took it as like Kershaw saying like, hey, I've been ready to go for a couple weeks now. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, I'll trust their plan. We still got a month to go here, so there's plenty of time for him to get built back up. And I think it made all the sense in the world to be extra cautious. Like, if you think about back injuries, it's very touchy feely. So one little wrong tweak here and you might have just put yourself back 2 weeks. And where we're at in the schedule, they can't really afford another setback here. So I think it made all the sense in the world to be cautious, to make sure that he's 100% before he comes back. But the fact that he's coming back on September 1st and he still has a full month, I think that's great news. I think when he first got injured, I think him coming back September 1st was basically best case scenario. So yeah, the fact that he is coming back, that's great. We'll see how he looks. There was no rehab assignment. He threw, I believe it was 70 pitches in the simulated game. So he's pretty built up, which is good. But you can't really replicate, game reps. So we'll see how he looks tomorrow.
Yeah, last outing was way back on August 4th. So it'll basically be 4 weeks to the day. 4 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned, 1 home run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. That was in San Francisco against the Giants. Just 66 pitches there. So, look, I mean, part of me is thinking, Daniel, am I crazy that this is deja vu? Because this is like he was right at the end of last season. Is he going to come back? Is he not going to come back? He comes back and then ends up not making it. I think that quote to me was actually encouraging because it tells me that he's like, no, we're good. Like, I'm fine. This isn't last year. This isn't that. We're not rushing anything. We're actually playing it slower than we should be playing it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how fearful are you that a month from now he's going to be back and unavailable?
It's 50-50 with Kershaw, just because, like you said, we've seen so many times just last year. I will say last year that was an elbow issue. So I guess that was more concerning than a back. But with this back stuff, he could throw 1 pitch wrong and it happens again. So we just got to wait and see and cross our fingers and hope for the best, just because, I mean, we've seen it so many times. Like, I'm optimistic. I'm glad he's coming back and is seemingly 100% healthy, but we just got to wait and see.
All right, let's get to some questions from folks in the chat. As always, we appreciate those joining us live for the postgame show tonight. If you're watching this the next day on YouTube or listening to it on the podcast feed via the Blue Wire Podcast Network, we appreciate you guys as well. But this is a question that I've seen pop up. I'll throw it up from Alleluia 1, but it's a question a lot of people have been asking. Any concern about Trea Turner? Obviously, this is a guy who has struggled in big moments in the postseason for the Dodgers. Here's a big game. He goes 0 for 3. There's some concern that people are having. He was 0 for 5 last night, 2 for 5 the night before, 0 for 3 the night before that. Of course, you go back further than that, 2 hits, 2 hits, 2 hits, 3 hits, 1 hit, 1 hit, 2 hits. So any level of concern, like this is a big game. Trea Turner 0 for 3 looked awful against Edwin Diaz, although everybody looks awful against Edwin Diaz. Yeah. Any concern whatsoever? I think I know the answer, but I'll ask on behalf of the people anyways.
I'm going to say no, just because there's no, like, what is that going to change? Like, Trea Turner's going to be in your lineup regardless. I know I've seen the postseason numbers. I know they're not great. Like you said, tonight was a postseason type of matchup. But I mean, he faced deGrom and Edwin Diaz. That's not a good matchup for anyone. But we'll see. He's going to be in the lineup. I'll tell you that much. So being concerned isn't going to change anything.
Yeah, I mean, I just go back to this. Like literally, we could say, oh, he's 0 for 8 against the Mets so far. Okay, like go back to the Milwaukee series: 1 for 4, 3 for 5, 2 for 2. With a couple extra base hits, 3 walks. So like he has gone up against good pitching, has succeeded against it. I actually think he looks better. I've been really impressed with the way that he's hit the ball. Like, yes, there are those infield singles, but there's lots of times when I see the way he's placing the ball left or right and just looping it into the outfield. And so, to your point, who cares if we're concerned about it? Because it's not going to matter. He's going to be the everyday shortstop. But on the flip side, the postseason numbers, let me ask you a slightly different but related question. Do you buy into the notion that some of these guys are completely different people in the postseason?
I mean, I buy into the notion that pressure could get to some guys. Absolutely. I mean, obviously those games are a lot more important. Everyone's watching. Typically you're facing better pitching, like you're playing better teams. And if you look at, throughout the course of a postseason series, a 5 or a 7 game series, there's teams that know how to game plan. They know what your weaknesses are, and they could really exploit those over the course of a long series. So I definitely think there's something to that. I also think even though Trea Turner has been in the postseason a lot, I still think overall it's a very small sample size. And as we've seen with guys in the past, it only takes one really strong postseason to kind of break that narrative. So we'll see. But I definitely think there's something to that. I don't think it's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking up at his postseason career numbers: 167 at bats, 228 batting average, 561 OPS. So 39 games, 167 at bats. That's not a nothing sample size, to be fair. And you compare that to his regular season numbers, he's hitting about 75 points less than his career average. The OBP is 83 points less, and the slugging percentage is more than 200 points less than his career averages. So I think the points that you made are valid. First of all, there's a pressure element, and whether or not you think certain guys may get frustrated or cave under the pressure. But the other piece of it that we rarely talk about is seeing the same hitters basically 5 times in 6 days. And so are there certain guys that have holes in their swing that in a shortened series against certain guys and certain matchups you can exploit? Hey, he can't hit the high fastball. We're just going to pepper him with high fastballs. Not to mention, by the way, you're typically facing the best pitching in the postseason because you're only playing against the best teams. There aren't games against the Marlins and the Giants and the Rockies and the Diamondbacks to sort of raise things out. So all that to say, Trea Turner doesn't seem like the type of guy that lets the pressure get to him. He seems like a pretty calm, cool, and collected guy at all circumstances. But maybe it is sort of a hole in his swing that in a shortened series teams can exploit. The hard part for me is then why aren't people exploiting the same hole? It's not like he has a small sample size of a career. Like, you know who he is as a hitter. And if you can elevate fastballs or breaking balls down and in or whatever a guy's weakness might be, why don't more people do it in the regular season? So I would, if it were me, I would bet on Trea Turner being successful this postseason. I just think he has it in him. You could make the opposite argument that he's due. He's due for a strong postseason after a few weak ones. And so we'll see. Let us know. Throw some more comments, questions in there. We'll get to some questions here to close out tonight's show. Again, if you're just joining us, Dodgers lose 2-1. Jacob deGrom, absolutely dominant. 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, just the 1 earned run. That was a Mookie Betts solo home run. And almost the second one from Justin Turner. Brandon Nimmo, not Nemo as I called him earlier, with an unbelievable catch. And a great reaction, by the way. And I know there were some people that were like, oh, look at the Mets. They think this is a playoff game, blah, blah, blah. Look, Jake Reed celebrated the same way last night, and so it's not like nobody on the Dodgers cares. Obviously, a big personal moment for Jake Reed and an unbelievable catch for Nimmo. So, I think celebrating is a good thing. We should all be, more celebrations, the better, and that was a great catch. Mike M. wants to know, what will the score be tomorrow? Mike, you got to tune into Dodgers Daily, all right? We do a show every weekday morning. where we make predictions. We look at the game lines. We look at the betting spread, and we give you our bets of the day. Scott Gearman joins me sometimes. Daniel and Matt might join me from time to time. But every morning between 9 and 10, that'll go up on the Dodger Blue 1958 page. So there's my tease. I'm not going to tell you what the score is tomorrow. Daniel, do you want to throw a score out there for tomorrow? Because you're not coming on tomorrow morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Kershaw is going to give, 5 or 6 strong innings. I think the offense is actually going to come alive. So I'm going to say 7-3 is the final in favor of the Dodgers. They win the series and also the season series. Like right now, the Mets and Dodgers have played 6 games. They're tied 3 apiece. So tomorrow's kind of the not that the season series matters, but tomorrow's kind of the decider.
Yeah, there you go. So Daniel likes the over too. If you're looking for a bet of the day, that's a big number that I can almost assure you will be on the over side of things. You get some thumbs up. Also some comments, Daniel. They like the Mookie photo behind you.
I saw that.
So, yep. There you go. Daniel autographed that himself, which is even cooler. It looks really cool behind him. It's his signature.
There's authenticity on the back, so there's proof that it's actually Mookie's signature right there.
Oh, this is a good one. Dong wants you to defend yourself here, Daniel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I saw your guys' show where you're poking some fun. It is what it is. I think if we could sit here, and I love these food conversations, by the way, because you never know who's going to be on what side. Like I feel like me and you.
The fact that I'm agreeing with Moreno has me worried, if I'm being honest.
Usually me and you against Matt, so I guess I'm the one guy who's on his own on an island here, and that's fine. But I will say. You said you like Apple Jacks, which are basically Apple favored Fruit Loops. So, it is what it is. I did say in my tweet, picking my favorite cereals, Fruit Loops was my number 2 pick. My number 1 pick was Cocoa Puffs, which I don't think anyone can hate on Cocoa Puffs. They're in my opinion, they're the perfect cereal. I think you mentioned Cocoa Crisps. You mentioned, I think. I like the texture of the puffs a little better. I think it holds together. It doesn't get quite as soggy. And then at the end of it, you have a nice little glass of chocolate milk to finish it off. So that is my number 1 pick. Fruit Loops is my number 2 pick, and I'll wear that. I don't care. More Fruit Loops for me if more people hate them.
Laura wants to know your take on Fruity Pebbles.
I like Fruity Pebbles too, but the Pebbles and the Crisps, those get a little more soggy than kind of the thicker cereals. So I tend to like the thicker, the puffs, the loops.
Okay.
But honestly, at the end of the day, give me any cereal with sugar in it, and I'm gonna like it. So I'm not too picky. I just have my favorites.
Do you like Matt's was Frosted Mini Wheats? Do you like Frosted Mini Wheats?
I was with you. I've never had Frosted Mini Wheats. Yeah. I would never think to buy anything that has wheat in it for a cereal.
Yeah. You and me both. Yeah, I'm not a big chocolate cereal guy, so that's my thing. Peanut butter I could do, but chocolate, not a big chocolate guy. So there you go. Deuce says Captain Crunch number 1, and I'm okay. Captain Crunch is near the top for me, other than just absolutely destroying my mouth when I eat Captain Crunch. I feel like it just shreds it.
You gave a list of like your 10 favorite cereals or whatever, and as we were going through it, I was like, yeah, I like that one. I like that one. Like that one. Like any cereal with sugar in it, I'm probably gonna like it.
Okay, my hot take was granola. Do you like granola?
Yeah, I'm not on the granola train.
Okay,
personally.
Fair. I'm very on brand as a guy who lives in Oregon and likes granola, so I was
thinking exactly that. I was like, that sounds about right.
Yeah, what can you do? All right, any other questions before we got? I mean, there wasn't a ton to talk about tonight. DeGrom was awesome. The Dodgers didn't do anything offensively. 2 hours and 20 minutes. We weren't even ready. We weren't even ready for the post-game show. I was still putting kids to bed. I was like, bedtime. We can't do a 6:30 post-game show. We got bedtime to take care of over here. We're usually doing 11:30 p.m. post-game shows. So, of course, it was so on brand that Daniel and I usually do these post-game shows after 7:10 p.m. games. And then it's like 11:45. Yeah, and it's like, great, here we go, the 12 to 1 shift. But, of course, we do a 4:10 game, and it's a 2 hour and 20 minutes. So there you go. I will promote a couple things here. Friday night, we've got a live watch-along. So Daniel will be a part of that, as long as there's no breaking Laker news like there was during our last one. But Friday against the Padres, series opener against the Padres, so that'll be a good one. That'll be on playback. So please make sure you set your calendar for that one. That's a 7:10 p.m. game. Padres at Dodgers. There will be a link on our social media. So make sure you're following at DodgerBlue1958 on Twitter and on Instagram. We'll get the link up there. Those are a ton of fun. If you haven't been to one of those yet, you log in with your TV provider. As long as you have access to watch the Dodger game, whether it's MLB TV, Spectrum, whatever. You log in, and then we all get the same feed. We all watch it at the same time. Daniel, myself, Matt Moreno, whoever is there, all can watch along with you. We can chat. We can talk on the screen. We can bring people on the stage. So it's a really good time. So make sure you set your calendars for that one Friday. We'll also be doing another one of those next Tuesday, September 6th. That will be against the Giants at the Dodgers, 7:10 p.m. for that one as well. So make sure you check that out. Dodgers Daily is on the Dodger Blue YouTube page every single day, Dodger Blue 1958. So make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell there as well. We'll not be doing a post-game show tomorrow because it's a 1:10 p.m. game. So you gotta be ready for that. Be ready for the 1:10. Clayton Kershaw pitching in the day game, and then it's getaway day for the Dodgers on that one. Day off on Thursday. Come home. Play the Padres starting on Friday, so should be
tomorrow's Thursday, so no day off.
Excuse me. Yes, thank you. I was looking a week ahead. I was like doing the math on that one, and I was like, this doesn't seem to add up. I was looking at the wrong week. Thank you. Tomorrow is Thursday. Friday they play the Padres, so no day off, but they do get ahead of it there. All right. Well, we appreciate you guys watching. That's Daniel Starkand. My name is Jeff Spiegel. Again, Dodgers lose a tough one. Jacob deGrom was fantastic in this one, but they'll be all right. I think that the divisional lead is down to 19 games, maybe 18 and a half, so I think we're going to survive there. Still well ahead of the Mets for the best record in the National League. Again, check out DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue 1958 for tons of post-game coverage. We'll see you next time.